once I can invest in my team and help them with their lifestyle, it'll benefit you, the business owner. But you got to be willing to have that servant leadership heart to
Right.
do that.
Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast. This is Mike Howard, and really happy to do another edition of the podcast. Really appreciate all of you who are subscribing to this channel. We're continuing to grow our subscribership, and that's due to you for spreading the word. So please continue to tell your friends and family and colleagues about the podcast, and continue to hit the like button, share this the podcast with a lot of other folks. I usually do this long introduction about the books and all this other kind of stuff, but I just want to get right into it because I've got a good friend who's no stranger to our podcast, and he's graciously invited me on his podcast, Mark Ledlow. Mark, I've gotten to know the last couple of years. He runs Ledlow Security Group, his own organization that he built from the ground up, and is doing great work. I'll have him talk about that a little bit. And he's a veteran. He cares about Veterans Affairs, and is a good friend, a good mentor to a lot of people in the industry, and we all look up to him. So, Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mike.
Again.
Thanks for having me back. As you take a break from your world tour all over the globe, and you just move around. When you move around, I'm like, man.
I know. I've kind of. It's not that I'm going to slow down. It's just that I read this book recently about how to appreciate the mundane and appreciate every day in life, and we've talked off camera about why that's so important. So I will still do the world tour, but I will be more present. Put it that way.
Smart.
Yeah. So, Mark, by way of just kind of having people remember, tell us a little bit quickly about your background and how you ended up running your own very successful security and consulting organization.
Yeah, as you know, as the audience probably knows, Marine Corps veteran, and before getting in the security industry, I got out of college after serving, in the military, reserves and police work and corrections work in Oregon. I kind of got burned out on that, so I joined. I got my degree, and then I went corporate, worked for WAMU, and worked the corporate side of stuff. And then 2008, the market crashed, and then I'm like, oh crap, now what do I do?
Yeah.
I reinvent myself. So I'm like, I'm from Southern Oregon. Everybody lives in Southern Oregon is from Southern California. And I'm like, I'm going to LA. Marcus, what are you going to do down there? You're crazy. I just retired from there. That's madness. You're losing your mind. I'm like, opportunity's not here in Oregon. So I moved down there and jumped in the EP industry and worked with every name you can think of, from royal families with Mike Trott and Chris Pullman and some of their clients, and the highest of the highest level in the royal family world in the Middle East, to public figures you've probably seen and heard about on their property doing security. And fast forward till 20 years later till here now, and dad was getting ready to die of cancer. Checked out of the industry completely for about 4 years. Didn't have nothing to do with it. I was out. I was not even working, taking care of dad 7 days a week for 3-4 years. Had a little money.
Wow.
And I just took care of him till his last breath. And then I'm like, I need a break. And so I just started traveling, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. Because you kind of lose your identity when someone passes that close to you. And so
Right.
I needed that time to step away and figure out what my why was. And then I'm like, maybe it's time for me to do my own thing, start my own security firm. I had a lot of good, Robert Dodge, shout out to Dodge.
Yeah.
You're ready to start your own shop, and people just saw stuff in me. I didn't see it myself because I don't think I was ready for it. And then I think after that pain and suffering of losing someone like your father, I'm like, became a motivator. And so I'm like, okay, start my own shop. And that I had a, lead on to a marijuana grow in Oregon. And I'm like, that was my motivation to get it. So I finally got it. And he goes, let's do business. Like, well, I need a retainer up front to pay for payroll. Oh, we don't do retainers. Like, well, I don't do business without a retainer. I didn't know the guy. So, things always work out, always work out, trust your gut instinct. And I started
Right.
no clients at all, but
Right.
20 years before I was in the industry, I was doing my networking and meeting people, going to all the conferences you can go to. In that 20-year span, people look at me and go, "Oh, you're an overnight success." I'm like, no, you didn't know me before Facebook. LinkedIn,
Overnight success. Right.
LinkedIn wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't even a thing back
Right.
then. It just, you showed up and worked and did a good enough job. They asked you, the detail leader asked you back. And that's how it worked. Worked on a Saudi royal family detail 3 months straight without a day off, 12 hours a day. Most of these young generation folks, they couldn't even handle, oh, I need my penalty break, my mill break, and my pee break, and that break. And like, you didn't, on week one, you'd be done. And they just didn't tolerate that type of stuff. And there's the new mentality that's out there right now. But you paid your dues back then, and 20 years of paying your dues, and here we are. People see what they see, but they didn't see me going up and down the I-5 corridor, working, living out of my car, hotel in it for months in, months out, and here we are, 2025, going, whoa,
Yeah.
this real? Did this really happen? But
Yeah.
you just got to believe in yourself and believe in your dream. Because for me, it was, do I work for the man or do I work for myself? Do I build my own dream or work for somebody else's dream, which is my own nightmare?
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head, man. Anybody who's done EP the right way back in the day, there's a lot of shoe leather, a lot of standing, a lot of no sleep and running around everywhere. It's not glamorous and sexy and all this other kind of stuff, like in the movies. It can be a fun job, as you know,
Mhm.
but it does take a toll. And God bless you for taking care of your dad all those years. We actually just lost my father-in-law a few days ago here, and so
My
just my
condolences
wife
to
is.
you guys. It's kind of, that's
Thank
hard.
you. Yeah, those things are always hard, and being a caregiver, and
Mhm.
the I've always been fascinated though with because I've always had an enterprise around me, police department, CIA, Microsoft, and that's fine. I enjoyed that. The life of an entrepreneur it basically takes balls, I think, obviously, because you have no safety net. When you talk about you decide to start your own thing, and the person they talk to said we don't do retainers and all this other kind of stuff. Were there times during those initial years where you had any doubts that you were on the right path, or did you just innately know that or did you put yourself into that fearless mindset? We'll talk about that in a little bit, where you knew that you were going to get to where you are and you were prepared for whatever pitfalls were in the way.
I knew that I surrounded myself with some smart folks around me
Okay.
that were good at numbers, good at business. Like Tom Ware, he's my CFO now. Part-time, he was part-time with me back when we first started, and he ran
Okay.
the whole industry, $20-30 million company. And he did my financials weekly. And, I had brought a guy that loved operations, loved the staff stuff, and just having smarter people around you, people can
Mm-hmm.
give you advice that are in business that are not in this business that we're in called security. And I'd call
Mm-hmm.
those guys up and call them, ask them their feedback, what they would do. And people in the same industry outside of state, I'd reach out and they start giving me guide. You can ask people for advice, they're going to give it to you. If they like you, they want to see you
Right.
succeed. They're like, well, you need to do this, need to do that. I'm like, okay, I need to have a reserve. Okay, how do I get a reserve? And yeah, the fearless mindset, I kind of had the Marine Corps mentality running the
Right.
business, but
Right.
without the leadership style is how I did it. I treated everybody
Mm.
like I treat our team like a football team. I'm the owner, general manager. And then you find your coach, you find the quarterback, you find the stars that shine. And I think what people struggle with is being able to take a step back in humility,
Mm-hmm.
letting go of control. Because I see so many business owners out there, they're control freaks.
Yep.
They got to do it all. I'm like,
Yep.
you can't do it all because your bandwidth is out of 100%. If you're doing it all, you're maxed out. And so if
Yep.
errors happen in security, they're going to happen daily because you're dealing with human beings. Human beings make mistakes. They're human. And what I figured out is delegate, trust, empower, and lift up and edify.
Mm-hmm.
And you give them a rope. Don't hang them with it, but give them a rope of trust. And I think I see so many people that are trying to control their leaders, and everything rises and falls on leadership. John Maxwell.
Yep.
And that's what I've studied John Maxwell, been to a couple of his conferences, and I've been able to, I think what's given me that sharp edge is going to different leadership seminars outside of the industry and pulling
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, reading books, pulling them, diving into YouTube and just thinking, learning, understanding how these people think. Like right now I'm reading Tillman Ferida's new book that he's come out with.
Okay.
And I started reading that last week. I'm like, if I'm taking my business to the next level, I need to learn from the best that done it.
Yeah.
You got to surround yourself.
Yeah.
And for me,
Yeah.
that's been the truth of building, being willing to organically change yourself internally, inside out, and being willing to grow. Is it scary? Of course, it's the scariest thing I did since joining the Marine Corps boot camp.
Right.
Yeah. Does it freak me out? Yeah. I had nights that we're not asleep and we're supporting First Republic Bank. I'm like, oh crap, $500,000 in 1 month. I'm like, okay, you need to be honest with your clients too. They know you're a
Yeah.
company. They know you don't have $1 million in the bank. They know. You just got communication is huge with your clients, and don't sell them on untruths. So tell them, be organically honest with them and be transparent with them, and create that bridge of trust. And that bridge of trust will open those doors for other opportunities. But just got to be transparent in business, and just communication is huge with clients.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I always love, your take on leadership, and also, I've seen, like you, I've seen so many people with holding on so tight because they're afraid that their direct reports or leaders are going to make mistakes. And as you so rightly said, they're going to make mistakes. You're going to make a mistake. It's what you learn from it, right? And otherwise, you can't innovate, can't grow. Your troops will be so scared they don't want to do anything outside of their assigned lane.
Mhm.
And yeah, you hit all the right marks with communication. I think it's important, the transparency for leaders too is, to be transparent with your team about the things you don't know, and why you, like you said earlier, you surrounded yourself with really great people that knew things that you didn't know, and now you're all part of this cohesive team, right?
And you got to
Um,
get along too. And if you see toxic people, get rid of them. Like Barbara Corkin said it best on YouTube with Shark
yeah.
Tank. She said she loves Fridays because she'd find out who the whiners or the complainers were, and then she'd have it come into my office on Friday. And that meant that toxic person was out the door. And the minute
Mm,
you find somebody toxic in your environment, it's going to break it down. So get rid of them, get rid of that cancer as fast as you can, because it
yep.
doesn't help the strength of the team.
Yep. And that's a hard thing, especially for people coming from public sector, where there tends to be a lot more leniency, unfortunately, for bad actors. Back in the agency, they called it, not officially, obviously, but pass the trash. Even if you tried to write somebody up for a poor review, they just move them on to another part of the organization. That's what I love about private sector. You either, fulfill what you're expected to fulfill, or you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have that.
Yeah,
Um,
you got to give them room to fail and be gracious with those guys from the government sector, because they come from the government. It's a different mindset from government to private.
right.
And I see a lot of lazy mentality because they're not used to having to hit numbers. They don't know what
Mhm.
that is. And they
Yeah.
become in an operations position, and they think they can put up their feet up and just kick back and collect a
Yeah.
check. I'm like, no, you got to perform. And
Yeah.
I think that's a culture shock to many of those folks coming from government, coming into private, is, they're working for a corporate enterprise and they put their feet up and they have that mentality, that government mentality. And you got to be patient with them. Give them a while, give them about 6 months so they can make that culture adjustment of producing.
All right.
But other than that,
Yeah.
it's a tough shift. I mean, running a company is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Is it rewarding? Yeah, because for me, I'm creating my own dream, my own
Hmm.
legacy, and
Right.
not really about the money. The money is a byproduct of serving others. And once I can invest in my team and help them with their lifestyle, it'll benefit you, the business owner. But you got to be willing to have that servant leadership heart to
Right.
do that.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned servant leadership. It has, from the time you started the company to now, have your verticals, your lines of business changed, or they basically stayed the same all these years?
Oh yeah, you have to. Your portfolio, my portfolio has rapidly changed. It's like we do probably, I'd say 50% of our stuff is ad hoc work, EP,
Mm,
protection support, secure transport, executives moving from point A to point B. You know, that's a big thing in California that we do through our
hmm
vendor relationship that we have down there. And I would say that we have a lot of site security we do for a medical organization that we support. And
mm,
now we're licensed in Texas and several of the states. And I would say that, yeah, the exec protection, the residential security, probably 50% of our business right now. There, you know,
right.
some big clients that we became vendors with in the last 2 years. But it's I would say the bulk of that, we're trying to get in the intelligence piece, protective intelligence, because that is
hmm
basically that's driving the industry. And now
Yeah.
that we're in a new administration, you know, I think intelligence is going to be exploding, trying to keep up with ever-changing news cycles and everything else that we're about to
Yeah.
see in this new season that we're in. But as far as business sectors that we're in, I'd say executive protection, 50% of it. The rest is a lot of ad hoc work. We're
hmm
changing our business model to go more direct client facing versus being in the sub. Because if you, I think a misconception most security company owners think is, well, I have a business, I'm a sub. Well, if you're a
hmm
business owner, you're a sub, you don't own the contracts. Therefore, you have nothing to sell if you wanted to sell as a business owner.
Correct. Yep.
And you can't sell that. And I think that's a mistake many people have in our industry running security, contracts for the big three. I mean, they think, oh, I have a business. I'm like, you may be you're a sub, you have a transactional relationship with those prime contract holders, but you don't have the contracts. So if you're ever to sell your company, you have nothing to sell.
Right.
You sell your
Right.
manpower, but that's
Yeah.
about it. So I think that's a misconception I've seen. And a lot of people I've talked to in the industry that give me this advice like, hey, you really don't have a company if you have just you're subcontracting. I'm like, oh
hmm
wow, I never thought about it that way. But that's
Yeah.
just years of learning from smarter people.
Yeah. That's what I love about you. It's always about continuous improvement, continuous learning, right? The day you think you have it licked is the day you regress. I think as a leader, as a business owner, and you find that mindset actually out there too, hey, I've reached the pinnacle. I got nothing else to learn, and oh yeah, the journey just started.
Yeah, I tell my team there's 100 Mark Ledlows trying to take Mark Ledlow out. Envy, it's just envy. It's just how it is in business. Humans are humans, and they see you get a Pepsi down the street, and they want that Pepsi. They
Yeah.
want that client. It's just everybody's got to pay their bills, and I think the industry is getting tighter. It seems like it's shifting, and it's never the same. It's always like you ran Microsoft, you're the CISO of Microsoft, and you see how things shift, and you made your organization a profitable business, which is hard to do in that type of role.
All
And
right.
it makes you think on your feet and forces you to pivot.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. Speaking of pivoting, uh, the fearless mindset, where did that come from? I assume you coined that phrase. When did it come into fruition? What made you think about it, and what does it mean? How does that translate?
That was we're my podcast producer and I were doing a brainstorming of a title of the podcast, and I
hmm
was like, "What do we call this thing?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know. And then and goes, "Well, dig deep." I'm like, "Okay, dig deep." I'm like, "Wait a minute, let's honor my dad and his
Ah.
battle of cancer because
Ah.
he was a pastor. He had
Okay.
strong belief, faith in God,
Yeah.
and he was just fearless till his last breath. He knew where he was going. He had that eternal security in his mind, his spirit, and nothing shook him. He had stage 4 brain cancer. He knew he was leaving.
Oh
Nothing
my gosh.
was free. And just watching him in that journey of cancer and just being fearless in his approach in life, he never once complained once about it. And
Really?
never
Wow.
once. I'm like, whoa, Vietnam vet, but his faith just carried him. His why carried him. And then,
Hmm.
Chris Decker and I were talking about it, and I'm like, you know what? Let's call this the fearless mindset. Because too, COVID was happening, right? So nobody was
Right.
working, everybody was out of commission. Everybody thought the world was going to die off and the US was going to disseminate with COVID. And so everybody's kind of, shut down. And Chris Tucker says, what are you going to do? Sit at home and wait for the industry to come back, or are you going to do something about it? I'm like, ooh, that's a challenge.
Nice challenge. I love it.
Whoa, am I going to sit on my butt and wait for the conference to come to go get busy? Or are you going to start building a platform while everybody's sitting on their rear ends doing nothing? And then he said, think about this. You build this platform out next 2 to 3 years while everybody's sitting around. And by the time conferences start, you're going to be a known name. I'm like, I didn't care about being a known name. I just wanted business.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I didn't even know what my why was doing the podcast title. I was figuring out what my purpose was when I was doing it. I've never did a podcast before. I don't even listen to Joe Rogan, right? But I don't even know who these guys were. I'm just like, do I interview? Do I do freestyle? How do I do this thing?
Right.
And I think after a year of it, I was realizing what I was truly doing. I was serving my industry, helping people out. And I had a couple offers to buy it. And my heart was like, do I really want that stress of sponsorship and saying the right words and,
Hmm.
being corrected by your sponsors? I think Dana White had that issue with UFC and he told someone to basically take a hike.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I want to own it. And so we
Right.
trademarked it and got approved. Trademarked Ledlow Security Group. The Marine Corps gave its blessing on that logo with the EGA on it,
Hmm.
OW. I'm like, whoa, this is something. And it's become a journey of creating a media company now.
Hmm.
And we did our first mastermind podcast in Orlando for GSX as is. And I was like, we had like 80 people show up for that. I'm like, oh, people are interested. Because what it is,
Wow.
people want to tell their story. And you got to be in the digital space. I mean, not to get political here, but I really believe if Trump didn't get on Joe Rogan's show, I don't think it would have happened for him. That's my theory.
I think you're 100% right on that one.
And so I'm like, I need to double down on podcast. I just need to, if that's what happened to the president of the United States, love him or hate him, whatever. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I served Bill Clinton. I was willing to die for my country. So
Sure.
where I stand politically.
Yeah. So that fascinates me. How long have you been podcasting?
4 years.
4 years. Okay. And did you approach it the same way as you approached how you developed your business? You know, first, obviously, you're solo, but then you finding other talent to help you as the podcast is growing.
Right. What
Yeah.
I do now, I lean heavy on my team, on my security company.
Hmm.
And they want me to be the voice and the face of the company. I'm like, okay, what does that look like? I'm like, okay, look at leaders. Leaders are the face of the company. They're not in the business, but they work on the business. So, I mean, my biggest strength, I realize it is doing stuff like this, interacting, building that trust relationship on the podcast. And I think my angle changed over time to pull personalities out that were really uncomfortable about being on the podcast, make them feel comfortable and tell their story. Not Mark Level's story,
Oh,
but their story. Because
right.
people truly, they listen to a podcast, they want to hear a story. Because as you know, storytelling is the most powerful way to get a message across and change a mind, change a heart. And so I started doing that probably in the last, I think, 2 years. I finally figured out how to do it without having to
Hmm.
have a script. And then now that my team operationally can run my business, if something emergency comes up, they'll text me or call me. But I'm not, and as far as day-to-day operations, I stay out of it. Let them run it, trust them to take care of it. If they need me, Mark, we need your assistance. We need as they call it, the big stick.
Right. Yeah.
I just trust them. And one thing I don't do, I've learned is not to yell or scream,
Mm.
get upset, but listen. When there's friction, that's good. your team needs friction. You need to let them go to that friction so they can grow also. If you hold that back from them, you're preventing your team from growing, from scoring that touchdown. And that's why I learned to pull it back, just listen. And if you don't know stuff, pull in consultants that are better than that and pay them for their time. I do that all the time now. I bring in consultants who are smarter in this thing. Being in the business for 20 years, I can call a couple people. I just talked to Brian Jensen the other day, thanks to Tim Winslow for that contact. And we had a good talk about where I wanted to take the business. And then lots of talks with different other folks. I don't want to expose that relationship, so I'll keep that confidential. But that's what I've learned. Just bring in smarter people in to help you grow your dream, grow your organization. We're still a boutique company, but yeah, it's truly letting operations run that. And then that way I can focus solely on podcasting. And I think we're turning into a media company in Texas. We're going to be headquartered here soon out there in Texas. And I'm going to take it to the next level and double down on it. Like, because I realized after the election, like, whoa, Mark, you have a podcast. How come you're not doubling down? So I'm always challenging myself psychologically. In fact, I'm going to be on Brad Lee's podcast in Vegas. I think on the 25th, I'll be in Vegas for about a week.
Okay. Yeah. Hope to see you when you guys are here for the big show here.
Yeah, I'll be down there. And one thing I've learned too is as we get busier, I don't have the bandwidth to do stuff like I used to. And I'm like, I ask myself, is this worth my energy time? I'm going to go to this conference, go to these different events. Am I going to meet my prospective client there? Probably not. What's the ROI on my time? Zero.
Right.
So why would I go? Nothing, not to offend people in the industry that I'm better than them. I'm just conserving my energy. And I think people misjudge me because they think I'm better than everybody. I'm like, no, I'm just conserving my energy because we're growing at a fast click. And I just realize you can't be everywhere.
Right.
And so
and that's the beauty of, sorry, I was saying that's the beauty of being able to say no, which a lot of us have a hard time saying no. I know I have a hard time saying no. I've got to slap myself and say no once in a while.
Yeah, I like I told Christian West and I think it was Joe Lasorsa at OSEC, like, yeah, next year being this year, I'm going to be less available to do stuff because we're just our trajectory right now is just exploding. And you know, it's just I think building the brand as hard as it is, you know, building Ronin leadership, it's just getting people to trust you. But you have such a huge platform too, Mike, over there from what you do with the CIA and Microsoft and many folks you know. But it takes one little error and somebody on your team to destroy that brand.
Right.
So you work so hard to preserve it and protect it.
Yeah. And especially you, because you've grown this from infancy from nothing basically to this juggernaut, this boutique juggernaut. And now what I love though is the fact that you've prioritized so well that, you know, and that's a lesson for all leaders is that, and you mentioned it earlier about control, you know, once you have the right team in place, just let them run. And now it allows you to do what you need to do with the podcasting to take your social media up to the next level, right? Which is that's another huge strategic goal and move that you've decided this is where you want to go.
And I hate social media. But after watching the elections and all the social media, I mean, you think of all these big names that are on Instagram, like, whoa, it's just how commerce is moving, business is changing, how we consume information. And like, I'm really an introvert, and I'm kind of half introvert, half extrovert. And I love serving others, love hanging out with other friends in the industry. But the more demand your business becomes, the less available you have the time to do that.
Right.
And you get pulled, as you ran Microsoft, you know, you get pulled in 25 directions in one day. And I'm glad I don't have the podcast as an official business yet, because I think I need to add to my team. And now I strategically go, okay, I need an executive assistant now for my podcast, helps me doing bookings. I don't do bookings anymore. She helps me with that. I made that decision first of the year. I'm like, I need an EA for the podcast. Otherwise, I can't keep track.
Yep.
And,
good for you.
Yeah, it's wild to think here I am, hitting another year older here in April going, can you really do this?
You can. I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch you do that. I know that people, because I know you had Jack Carr on your podcast about a year ago, and I was on his podcast, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. But it's
Congratulations.
interesting. Oh, thank you.
He's a big
Yeah,
platform. That guy's massive.
he is. He is. But I remember, like, you watch his rhythm of business with, like, every day. He's like, yeah, he's got his content on X and Facebook and Instagram, and it's like, he's not doing it on his own. He's got a great team that's doing this, and that's what you're building, what you have, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch you do this, man. A lot of us who are kind of baby podcasters can learn a lot from you as we watch your trajectory.
Thanks. That means a lot. Yeah, Jack Carr is like, I really have a lot of appreciation for Jack for coming on our podcast when he did. And you don't know all the stuff he does behind the scenes for others. It's just, he's got a huge heart. And then being blessed with the stuff he does in TV and now in the movie industry with Amazon and his hit movie with Chris. I'm like, that just shows you how powerful and the entrepreneur mind really can be if you just jump all in like Jack did. And I think he's working on another TV show or something. I haven't talked to him in a while, but you probably know more than I do because it seems like
Yeah.
all you authors kind of know each other.
Well, I mean, we're getting there. I was introduced to him by Rick Prado, who wrote Black Ops. And then yeah, and then of course Mike Trout with the Black Ops bourbon. The Four Branches Black Ops Special Edition bourbon. So it's kind of how we're all kind of interrelated. But I'm a baby on this, but it's fun. This is fun, which also begs the question of strategy, right? Because now you're making a strategic move really to go all in social media now that you've got your team in place and you guys are driving your business. Is this organic, or do you sit down and kind of think about, okay, in the next year, I've decided I want to really do X, Y, and Z when it comes to social media? How do you approach strategic thinking and putting together a strategic plan for your team and for you?
From the security side, that comes easy. I think I just do it. As far as strategic planning go, I really don't map anything out on like a legal pad. I think because I've been part of other organizations, watching some of the legends, like shout out to Robert Dodge and many others that run different organizations, I kind of see how they did things. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, if I'm going to grow 50%, add a couple of new clients to support, I needed another operations guy to support my other operations guys during the week. And then we have to have night guys covering the weekends and the nights. And my focus is from operationally standpoint, we have to have that foundation in place to support the client demands. If you don't, it's going to get crushed. You're not going to be able to support it. So I kind of go marine mode, operation mode. Just how do you make that happen? And that's kind of where my head goes. And then as far as strategic planning, I have to bring the consultants in to give me a roadmap, show the pie charts, whatever they do to help me keep straight. And that's why I have a general counsel, Josh Bam, our in-house general counsel from the legal standpoint. You have to have an attorney and you have to have an HR in a business. Otherwise your business if you got to protect your business interest. That's why we have the general counsel on here, because trust me, when you start doing stuff, you put a target on your back and they'll come after you. They'll make stuff up to come after you because people just get envious. But as far as the podcast organically growth goes, it's all been organic, playing on YouTube on the back end, trying to figure out tweaks and stuff. I go back there myself and just play with things, see what works, see what doesn't work. And then sometimes you just got to recruit people. And sometimes you have to go find out people that are good. I don't have a team like Sean Ryan does or Jack Carr. I mean, those guys are probably bringing in hundreds of $100,000 a month off, their subscription base. But I do know this new generation, they work differently and they want to tell their story because people are finding people digitally. they find resumes on LinkedIn. And so I'm thinking, well, how do my vision, I think I'm more of a visionary, a dreamer when it comes to the podcast. So how I'm looking at it now is could I bring industries together, different industries, not just security, but different industries together to do a
Hmm.
mastermind, do a mixer where people connect with each other, pay a price, pay a sponsorship fee. And that's kind of what we're looking at to do in 2025. I'm just waiting for the right things to fall into place, the right sponsors to line up, and then I'll probably bring in like a Mike Howard on board to talk about leadership from Microsoft and Ronin, or bring in a Tim Wenzel, or bring in, maybe a Frank Mir to talk about
Okay. Yeah.
the fighting.
Yeah.
And the people come from different industries. They want to network. They kind of like, you have these masterminds that these guys, 30,000 people in a convention. I'm thinking maybe 100. But that's kind of the vision I have of where I want to take the Fearless Mindset media, maybe probably turn it into a media company eventually once we start, transactioning dollars, because it's all been self-funded with Ledlow and using
Right. Yeah.
Ledlow as a sponsorship. So people go, oh, what's Ledlow? What is that security thing? So that it's worked. It's worked so far. I mean, it's opened up a lot of doors, and people hitting me up on WhatsApp like, oh, I didn't know you're a security company, because I just create relationships. I don't ask people for their business. I just focus on being friends.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah.
what I do. And I tell my team, we don't need to sell what we do. People know what we do. And then if something comes up, oh, Mark can do that. And that's probably the best way to do business, I think.
Hmm.
Tell the team to play the long game. Don't get over aggressive. Let those other companies that know for that, let them be aggressive. But
Yeah.
be that one-stop shop of a trusted advisor. And that's kind of how
Hmm.
we're doing it. Just put that Ledlow brand on stuff and the fearless mindset. And I think eventually, in the 5 years, people will go, oh yeah, I know what that brand means. And we've had a couple of offers to buy us out already. It's like, we haven't even done anything yet.
Hey, reputation precedes itself, my man.
I had a couple offers 2 years ago. I'm like, we're not quite there yet. And then all of a sudden this week, three different emails and one phone call. I'm like, whoa, okay. I think people are noticing. And I'm like, I tell my team, we're not even there yet. I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that you're also going to spread the net wide, right? So, your platform will not just be security; it will be a lot of different things. And I think that resonates with people. I mean, like Rogan, for instance. I mean, he didn't just stick with MMA or cold plunging or whatever the heck he's doing, whatever hacks he's doing to make himself better. He brings in a wide variety of people because people are, like you said, they're interested in what other people are doing. And I also think people are interested in how to maneuver themselves in this very tenuous world we live in now, with political upheaval and economic uncertainty and all this. And so being able to have a steady voice and bring a lot of viewpoints out there, I think is important. So I think it's exciting to see what you're doing with this, and I can tell you're getting a kick out of
It's
planning
fun.
and
It's
yeah,
a
it's fun,
blast.
right?
Just,
Right?
I think creating for me is just, I didn't know it could be so fun.
Yeah.
And that's truly being an entrepreneur. I
Yep.
don't think I would make it a very good employee. It's 8 to 5. It would have sucked the energy out of me. But it's just, I think it's that Marine Corps challenge. I always gonna, if I don't feel a challenge, I check out.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I'm just maybe wired that way. Me and my dad was a business owner too. He's just like, he
Hmm.
liked his time, control of his time and money. And so I'm
Hmm.
like, could I possibly do that? And yeah, it just takes a mental shift to be able to let yourself fail and get back on my own. All right. And I tell my team, and next month could be zero. We do nothing. Oh, that's just business trends. And I think the way I survive is looking at everything as a quarter. And I'm like,
Hmm.
in my mind and go, okay, I can pay my bills for the next 3 months. I'm fine. And
Yeah.
that's how I live, in my brain. Otherwise, I think I'd freak out. Like you owe all this payroll and you're out, you have $500,000 in invoices. Whoa. I
Yeah.
think that would freak out a lot of people. I'm like, we'll be all right.
No, I mean when you are obviously a lot like your father, as you alluded to. He seems like he was a very resilient person,
Mm-hmm.
and whether you call it whether he called it stoicism or not, he was very stoic about, life and obviously about
Mm-hmm.
his illness, and he didn't let it stop him from
Mm-hmm.
living, right?
Nothing rattled him.
Yeah.
Nothing really phased him.
Yeah. And
I
I
think
think that's a great trait.
because I think he came from a really, really hard childhood and
Uh,
came, from a very abused childhood. And I think when you come from that background and then you
mm,
find a faith and just he came from a tough back. Probably even worse than Navy boot camp is what he experienced.
mm,
Go into detail, but he went through that, and his faith carried him through. And he's just like, I've been beat up, I've been chastised. The worst, whatever the worst things you could imagine, an abusive relationship from having an alcoholic father. That was his childhood.
yeah.
But and then he got older. He didn't want to have anything to do with that lifestyle. And then he found the military, found faith, and he just blew up. And it's like
Hmm.
I think he just always had that maybe his childhood that forged him into that, and the Navy helped forged him in that, and then he got into faith. And then he's like, nothing just would rattle him. So I saw that. I'm like, nothing shakes him. He's just like, whatever. he just he just lives his life day by day. He lived in the now.
Yes.
He lived in the
Yes.
now. He was always present. And then he'd be sitting around watching TV,
Love it.
wanting everybody to hang out for holidays. Like, what are you doing on your phone? Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Because he'd see the distractions with people. My sisters being on their phone, doing whatever they're doing.
All right.
Why aren't you talking to me? He present.
Yeah.
So I think he taught me that quite a bit. Is always be present, like what you do now, and being able to turn all these distractions, social media stuff off. Because
Yeah.
I see that I go to conferences now, and no one's talking to them, so they're on their phone, and I'm like, how do you get they they're showing their insecurity because no one's talking to them. They're taking care of email, business, whatever it is. But it's just
Yeah.
our society has changed so differently in the last 5 years.
It sure has. And God bless him. He all the things that I try to study about stoicism and of course my faith too, like yours is, but the fact that he lived it. He
Mm-hmm.
he living in the present is very important. So I think even you approach that with business, and I like that because you look too much downrange, and it's like you be worried all day long, and you look too much behind you, and then it's woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? And that's not
Yeah.
going to help you anyway. Um, so, which transitions to kind of the last point I want to get across with you. I'd like to ask you about. You've got a lot of irons in the fire. We talked about that actually before we started recording. And as you've talked about with the audience, how do you take care of you? I mean, you must be able to approach life now that you've got your team, you've got your enterprise, you have your strategic goals for social media and podcasting. So you've got the right things in place, but there's a lot of pressure that you have on a daily basis. Um, how do you take care of you? What do you do in your life to make sure that you keep your head on straight and that your head doesn't explode, every time something bad comes on the pike?
I've learned to put myself first, not in a
Okay.
selfish way, but in a health
Right.
way.
Okay.
After having COVID, almost died with it in Vegas.
Mm.
Um, I spent 4 weeks in Virgin Hotel. I'm like, God, is this it? I mean, I was about ready to go to the hospital in the ambulance. It
I
was
should have gone to the win.
that was my problem. I should have gone to the win.
Right.
I'm like, holy crap! But I think that really changed my perspective.
Okay.
It took that almost near death experience going, you need to slow down, chill out. You can't control everything.
Mm.
I'm like, huh. So I think I have more peace now than ever before. If the business falls apart tomorrow, I'm okay with it. All my credit cards I'm debt free.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I'll be okay. I think
Yeah.
I'm okay. I don't care what people think anymore. And that was the most powerful feeling after that whole situation went online a couple of years ago. I want to go into detail about that, but
Mm.
that was, I needed that to happen for me to change internally. It lit a Marine Corps fire into my belly.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, watch this there, bucko. I'm like, fine, okay. Here comes the Marine. But
Yeah.
after the fact, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't care what people think anymore. It doesn't shake my tree. And going back to my dad, how he looked at life.
Right.
If I'm on the hospital bed tomorrow, well, will it matter? No. And so now I have such peace about living life. I realize I don't have to be everywhere for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I can check out at 5 o'clock, go watch a movie, and spending time exercising. I do about 4 miles of walking a day. Just get on the road and start walking. I
Good
started
for
doing
you.
that in my routine, just walking, some sort of a workout, get a sweat going on. And then
Mm-hmm.
my purpose, get up in the morning, help my team out, serve the team. And then if if a project doesn't go, if I'm looking at a convention, couple conventions or whatever, and I'm like, do I really need to be there?
Mm-hmm.
Will it change the course of my business by not being there? Probably not. Then why go? So I'm
Yeah.
saying no a lot more to a lot of more things than I used to. I'm just conserving my energy, and that way I can have more bandwidth to perform.
Yeah.
And just being able to say no to people, and I'm okay if people, because as you build your business, the bigger you get, the bigger your target. And you almost have to have a Michael Jordan or Tom Brady mentality,
Mm-hmm.
because those guys were the most hated guys in their sport, in their era. They were hated.
Right.
Why? Because they won.
Yeah.
And what you're winning in life is going to expose those folks that are insecure. It's going to expose those folks that hate you. It's just
Mm-hmm.
life. And I told my team, you guys better toughen up, because the bigger we get, they're going to come. That's why I have an attorney in house to protect us. That's why
Yeah.
we're moving everything into an S corp, because I know what I'm pre-planning, because I know the business warfare is going to come. I'm going to be ready for it. You
Right.
have to. And how many times does Walmart get sued every day? Because they're huge.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
and
Yeah. That's the Marine in you coming out, getting ready for
yeah,
the battle.
yeah, exactly. It's those tactics I learned in the military, but applying them in business. But yeah, I have so much peace now. It's just like, okay, who's going to be there? Okay, is it really going to be? Is it worth my time and my health to get on a plane to go somewhere? Is it going to really produce business for our team? No. Then I'm like, it's not really worth my time.
Right.
And I see so many companies spending so much money for visibility and branding out there. I'm going to take a step back and allow myself to rest. Being a leader, you have to rest.
Mm. Very good. Very good.
People, a lot of leaders out there think they got to be everywhere. They want to be in the, I think, limelight. They get jealous of people they perceive online to be something, and really it's perception. Is it real? Maybe not. Maybe 50-50.
Right.
Because I'm just focusing on doing Mark Ledlow and having a blast, serving others, and getting on podcast, and just having more quality time with friends. And I'm blessed. The business is doing well, and we'll probably run it for another, go 5 years, and maybe sell
Yeah.
and go do something else. Go get a house next to you and go play golf. Go do
Sound
cold.
like a plan, man. No, man, this is a lesson in stoicism, like stoicism 101, the way you approach life, about what you can control, what you can't control, and living in the present, as we talked about. And I love that, being able to say no, and then not caring what people think about you, which for humans is a hard thing, but if you can get there, just makes life so much easier. And I just think that you have a very healthy approach to life, especially with the intensity of the business that you're in. You bring a clarity to it. If I guess one of my final questions is that, if so you kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the podcast where you've got these folks coming in the EP world and their expectations are totally different than the reality of the job, et cetera, et cetera. So, but let's say someone from that generation wanted to talk to you about how do I get to where you are, Mark? I want to be you someday, or I want to be like you, you know, with all this stuff going on and the success. What do I have to do? What would you tell them?
You know, sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give up certain things. You got to give up. For me, I don't have a family, no wife, no kids. That's the sacrifice I made. I mean, I dated a lot of girls in Southern California, but the problem was I wasn't a multimillionaire. You know that culture of dating in Southern California. But there's some good women down in Southern California. I met a lot of them, but I don't think I was ready for the relationship because I still had to grow. I'm not the Mark Ledlow I am now. I'm not. I was on the same Mark Ledlow back then. You
Sure.
mature, and I would
Right.
say my advice to that young agent looking at what I've done, that you're given an identity. You're given a DNA that only you can be that DNA. Only Mark
Mm-hmm.
Ledlow can be Mark Ledlow. And what I learned is you have to be okay with you. Find out what you were gifted with when you were born. What talent is that? What gift were you given? Communications, writing, are you Navy SEAL, Delta Force? You know, everybody has a skill set, a gift. You can't, nobody can be Mark Ledlow, but you can be Jack Doe. You can be Jack Carr. Only Mike Howard can be Mike Howard. Only Jack Carr can be Jack Carr. And you have to ask yourself, are you willing to pay the price?
Mm.
And a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
People are okay with mediocrity. I'm not. And
Yeah.
that's the difference. You have to be you got to find what that differentiator is. What is that common denominator? Are you willing to do what others are not willing to do? To go out there and do it, crush it. It's just a mindset, and I'd say 99% of the people out there are not willing to do the work.
They don't want to be uncomfortable. They like everything safe, nice and neat in a nice little row, and nothing upsets the apple cart. When life itself upsets the apple cart, it's going to happen, right?
Like you just said it, people are not okay with being uncomfortable. And to do what I do, I spent my entire career being uncomfortable.
Right.
And if you
Right.
have to live paycheck to paycheck, this is not the journey for you. If you want to have a wife, family, or a legacy, don't do this business. Not worth it.
Right.
What brings you joy?
Right.
That's the question that person in the audience needs to ask themselves. Do you want to have kids and family, have a house in Phoenix, Arizona, go to soccer games? Is that your dream? Get out of this business. Go become a cop. Go do something else.
Yeah.
But there are people that have made this industry success and then had a family. So that is possible. But
Yeah.
you're gonna pay a big price. For any success
Oh
in life,
yeah.
it comes with a big price. I mean, look at Michael Jordan, look at Tom Brady, the price he paid. The guy's divorced twice.
Yep.
And he's got kids, but everything you decide to do, you got to be all in.
Yeah.
Almost like reckless endangerment, just all in, don't look back. Passion
Yeah.
and conviction. And I'll wrap this up with I was talking to one of our operations guys, and he was having a tough time on how people looked at him and thought about him. I'm like, look at it this way. If you're sitting on that deathbed, you got 2 more
Mm-hmm.
days to go. That person you have a beef with, do you think they're going to come to your hospital side to see you and say goodbye before you take your last breath? Probably not. So why do you care what they think?
I
Why?
love it.
Why should you care? When's the last time they called you? Oh, a year ago. Why do you care? When's the last time they wrote you a check? Why do you care? And I think we live in a society of social media and being so, I think social media brings the narcissism in our personality we realize it's not there.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we're judging ourselves, comparing ourselves to people that don't really matter.
Yeah.
And I see that's the biggest downfall the EP industry does. I mean, see all these Facebook pages, and I'm like, what are you guys fighting over? Politics? Let him think the way he wants to think. Who cares? Is it going to change
It doesn't.
you start getting in this keyboard fight over, you're not going to change his opinion. So
Right.
rest yourself. Just go do something. I'm like,
Yeah.
so much wasted time on silly little high school stuff. I'm like, does it, when you're on your deathbed or, you know, you have a major crisis, are those people that you think are your friends going to be there for you?
No.
Probably not. So why do you care so much what people think of you? And then see this with the younger generation. It's almost like a I don't know how to explain it.
They're jonesing for approval, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I see it so prevalent with the young guys trying to come up in the ranks in the EP industry. I'm like, just do what you're good at. Have fun. Live your life. Live in the moment. Get off.
You only got one life.
We only get one shot at it. We're gone. And so, yeah, that's my advice to the young agents that want to be me. Don't be me. You're born to be you and you only, and you have that voice that you're gifted with. So figure out what your why is and pursue that why, that gift that you're God given at birth. That's probably my advice.
Good for you. Wow. Well, I'll tell you something. This kind of went in a different direction, you know, than, I mean, we touched on the points, but I'll tell you, I'm leaving this podcast even more inspired by you and the way you approach life and your father. You know, I knew nothing about your dad, but I just really appreciate you being transparent and talking about it, because that inspires me, that if things start getting tough or some stupid stuff happens politically or economically, and I look at your dad fighting cancer and not complaining ever and accepting it as this is part of life, not becoming bitter. And like you know, this industry can chew you up, spit you out, and a lot of jaded people, as you know, we both know. Most people are pretty decent, but you've got others that stab you in the back in a minute, talk crap about you, and you've been able to keep your ideals, which obviously instilled to you by your parents, your father, and I think all of us appreciate that. And I think you someday should write a book about this, because you could teach a lot of us lessons learned from your journey. So
it's coming.
I figured that.
It's in the brain. I'm like, how do I do this? We have time to do a book. I think you're right. I think that book would probably, the podcast has done more than I could ever imagine for our platform, for just the storytelling, for the business. But I think the book would even do a huger reach. So that's in the words I'm trying to figure out. Okay, when would I do a book?
Yeah, I know. You carve out that time. You'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
But yeah, it's been an honor to be with you, Mike, and I'll have you back on for a refresher too. Definitely.
That sounds good.
And this is fun.
This has been great. I was looking forward to this, and so thanks a lot, Mark, for being on the podcast. And I hope all of you, I know I have got a lot of conversation with Mark, and please check out his Fearless Mindset podcast. We'll have a link to that podcast when we release this podcast, and please check him out on LinkedIn and social media. He's a leader in the industry, a leader in general, and I'm looking forward to where you're going to take this in the future. So until next time, this is another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast, and we'll be back at you soon. All right, take care.